I have been wrenching on quads for over 20 years, and I am going to save you thousands of dollars today. Almost every expensive ATV repair I see comes down to owners guessing on maintenance, and dealers love it because your guesswork pays for their $500 valve checks. But that is over today. Here is the only maintenance schedule you will ever need, from your first ride to the day you park it for winter. We start the day you bring it home, with the first 20 hours. This break-in service is the one that decides how long your engine lives, and it is the one people skip the most. The first 20 hours, your engine is basically sanding itself smooth. Rings seating, cam lobes wearing in, bearings finding their fit. All that shaved off metal ends up floating in your oil. Pull the drain plug at hour 20 and you will see it, a little silver glitter stuck to the magnetic tip. That is normal at break-in. What is not normal is leaving it in there to grind through your bearings for the next year. See that same silver on the magnet a year down the road, and it is not break-in wear anymore. It means your bearings are grinding themselves apart, and that is a real difference. So that early oil and filter change is the cheapest insurance your engine will ever get. But know your machine first, because this one trips up first-timers every time. A lot of the big Honda utility quads, the Foreman and the Rubicon, are dry sump. That means 2 drain plugs, not 1. There is the crankcase, and there is a separate oil tank. Guys pull only the plug they can see, dump half the oil, and think they are done. Then the filter is tucked up under the skid plate where they would never look. I have seen guys run one of these low for a whole season because nobody told them about the second plug. Honda even puts the first valve check right here at 20 hours on machines like the Rancher and the Foreman. And I still hear guys repeating that old line, just wait till the valves start ticking. No, that is bad advice. The engineers who beat the daylights out of that engine wrote 20 hours for a reason. I trust their homework over old garage rumors every time. One cheap service here and your top end will thank you for years. But the break-in change is a one-time thing. The next interval comes around every single time you get the machine dirty. And that brings us to the busiest part of the whole schedule. After every muddy or wet ride, this is where the $10 jobs live that save you the $2,000 repairs. So let me show you the expensive version first. A guy brought me a Kawasaki Brute Force 750, complaining about a howl up front. I pulled the front gear case plug, and out came a thick, milky brown sludge. Water had been sneaking past the drive shaft seal all season, and it cooked the bearings and chewed up the locker clutch pack. That front diff from Kawasaki is not cheap, and neither is the labor. He was staring down close to $2,000. Every drop of that could have been stopped with a squirt bottle of fluid after his water crossings. So here is what the diff fluid tells you. Ride through anything deeper than your axles, and that fluid is the first thing worth a look. Milky means water got in. Sparkly means the clutch is wearing. Either way, fresh fluid is cheap and a gear case is not. And the pressure washer is the sneaky culprit here because blasting water straight at the hub seals is how it gets in there in the first place. Wheel bearings live the same hard life. Water and mud work past the seals, and a howling bearing will take your ball joints and tie rod ends with it. The bearing is cheap, but the wreckage it causes is not. Now, if you are crossing water in the first place, a lot of guys get it wrong. Every machine has a real depth limit. Most stock quads are fine up to about the floorboards. Past that, water starts finding your airbox, and if it gets sucked into the engine, you get what we call a hydrolock, water where air should be, and it bends a connecting rod. I have seen a Grizzly 700 come in with the crankshaft bent in half from one bad crossing. Blasting in and throwing a giant wake looks great on camera, but that wave washes right up over your hood and into everything you do not want it in. The slow and steady guys push a gentle bow wave out in front and keep the nasty stuff out. And one more thing before it goes away dirty, the radiator. On a lot of machines, especially the Polaris Sportsman and the RZR, that radiator sits down low up front and packs full of mud on the very first ride. Cake it in mud, and the cooling fan is just blowing hot air through a dirt wall, and the machine drops into limp mode miles from the truck. 5 minutes with a hose from behind, Pushing the mud back out the way it came in beats a $2,000 head gasket every time. Stay on top of all that every time you get it dirty, and you have got the hard part beat. The rest of the schedule just runs off your hour meter. So now we get into the hour-based stuff, and here is the rule that makes this whole schedule work. You count these by engine hours, not the calendar. A cheap hour meter on the fender is the best $20 you will spend on the machine because that little number runs everything. Your first regular service lands every 25 to 50 hours. And if you ride in mud and water, lean toward the 25 because that hard use is what the book calls severe, and it means every interval gets cut in half. This is your bread and butter service, oil and filter again. If you work your machine, low speed, heavy loads, lots of idling, your oil gets dirty way faster than the book assumes, so more often is right, not less. This is also when every grease fitting gets its turn. The ball joints, the control arm bushings, the drive shaft. Some brands even leave the zerks off on purpose, so you buy a whole new ball joint instead of greasing the old one. The ones you have are worth using. Next, your AIR filter. And I'm going to make some enemies here. Take those oiled cotton performance filters, the fancy ones everybody brags about. I have watched them kill more ATV engines than plain dirt ever did on a stock filter. I had a Polaris Scrambler 500 come in dead 2 hours into a ride, tore into it, and the cylinder walls were scored to ribbons. Fine grit had slipped right past that oiled filter and chewed that top end to pieces. If you ride in real dust, a properly cleaned paper or foam element sealed up tight beats a leaky performance filter every time. And this is when you eyeball your belt. That rubber belt spinning between your clutches lives a hard life, and heat is what kills it. I had a customer roll in on a Sportsman 570 with a belt that had a hole rubbed clean through the housing. He had been lugging it in high range at a crawl, hauling a loaded trailer up a hill. Low range is what saves it. Below about 15 miles an hour, or any time you are loaded and climbing, low range keeps that belt cool. The intake vents give you a peek at it, and the day it looks glazed or shaped like an hourglass, it is done. A belt is about $100, and a wadded belt that eats your clutches is a whole lot more, which is why smart riders carry a broken-in spare. The belt dust left on the clutch pulleys matters too, because that grit turns into a paste that glazes your next belt in no time. And know that some machines are just belt eaters. The older Arctic Cat and Textron ones are famous for it. I had a customer burn through 14 belts on one quad. So if you ever see a smoking used deal on one of those, that low price has a reason behind it. That covers the regular stuff. But about once a year or every 100 hours, whichever comes first, you do the big one, and it is where the dealer really goes after your wallet. This yearly service is simple on paper. Fresh transmission and front differential fluid, a real valve adjustment, and a look at your coolant. But here is the story that still gets me heated. A guy took his machine in for a valve adjustment. The dealer quoted him around $250. He picked it up and the bill was $510, 6 hours of labor, and the service manager could not give him one straight reason why. 4 other shops in his town quoted half that. That is not a repair bill, that is a stick-up. And it is not just labor. These companies love selling you special branded fluid. That Polaris front differential fluid started life as plain automatic transmission fluid. They just bottle it, slap their name on it, and charge you triple. Gear lube in a 5-gallon pail works out to about $7 a quart. The little branded bottles off the dealer shelf run $17. Same oil, more than double the price for a fancy label. A valve check is a set of feeler gauges and an afternoon. None of this is complicated, and every bit of it is money you keep in your own pocket. The yearly service is also when brake pads show their wear. These machines are brutal on brakes. All that mud grinds the pads down like sandpaper, and I have seen Can-Am pads gone in a few hundred miles. A fresh set is under $20 in your driveway, or $80 to $150 if you let the dealer do 20 minutes of work. Wait until you are down to metal, and now you are buying rotors too. Real quick before the last two. If a mechanic actually telling you where your money goes is worth something to you, tap that subscribe button. That is all I ask. Now, the most expensive damage on this whole list does not happen on the trail at all. It happens in your garage over the winter. Which brings us to the day you park it for the season. Lazy winter storage kills more engines than hard riding ever will. Start with coolant. Folks treat it like a forever fluid. It is not, though. The stuff that stops rust and gunk inside your engine wears out long before the color fades. And Yamaha and Polaris both put it on a multi-year schedule. Old or watered down coolant loses its freeze protection, and when it freezes in the block, it can crack the engine case wide open. On a lot of these machines, the case is not even sold separately, so now you are hunting a whole used engine over a $5 jug of coolant. Then there is your fuel, and this one is even worse if your machine has a carburetor. That ethanol blend from the corner gas station actually pulls water out of the air. Let it sit, and it turns into a sticky gum that plugs your tiny carburetor jets solid. An EFI machine is a sealed system, so it stores a lot better. But on an older carbureted quad, bad fuel is 10 times the headache. I had a guy bring me one after a winter on old gas, and I ran 4 separate carburetors through the ultrasonic cleaner just to clean out the crud. 1 cap of stabilizer in a full tank would have saved the whole mess. Last comes the battery. A battery tender keeps it alive, and a cheap voltage tester tells you in about 10 seconds whether it is really holding a charge or just faking it. When the deep cold sets in, a battery left out in the shop can freeze solid and crack, which is why mine winters somewhere warm. And that same weak battery is behind half the electrical gremlins on these machines. The best example is the Can-Am power steering. Guys get a scary DPS warning light and panic, thinking they need a whole new steering unit, when 9 times out of 10, it is just a tired battery. So before anybody throws parts at a problem, the battery gets checked first. So that is the whole schedule, top to bottom, by the hours. But there is one last habit, and it is the simplest one of all, before every single ride. I saved this one for last on purpose, because it is the habit that catches everything else before it turns into a bill. It is a 2-minute walk around, and it is where almost every problem on this list shows itself first. Low oil and low coolant show up in the sight glass and the overflow bottle long before the engine cares. A soft tire steers funny and wears out fast, and it is obvious from 10 feet away. Mushy brakes tell on themselves the first time you squeeze the lever. And a wheel bearing or a ball joint on the way out gives itself away as play or a clunk when you wiggle the tire, and you want to find that in the driveway, not 5 miles up the trail. A glance in the belt vents and a walk around the machine catches anything loose, leaking, or hanging where it should not be. That is the whole thing. None of it is hard, and none of it costs a dime. But that little habit is how you catch the low oil, the soft tire, the loose bolt, and the weeping seal back when they are still free to fix. Do the walk around, trust the hour meter, and this schedule does the rest. So let me leave you with the real reason all of this matters. Run your schedule off the hour meter, treat every muddy ride like severe service, and chase the cheap jobs before they turn into the expensive ones. A $10 habit is the only thing standing between you and a $2,000 surprise. If you want to know which machines make all of this easy and which ones I would never let a customer buy, go watch my video on the 3 worst and 4 best quads out there. Some of the picks will surprise you.